So apparently, you didn't win the lottery either. Then again, this is the 1st of April. I could be fooling you. Not to worry, when I'm in the pulpit, I have a policy of never making anything up that isn't mostly true. I've never been much of a lottery person. It turns out that the odds of winning are virtually the same whether you buy a ticket or you don't. Actually, if you harbor a secret belief that you might, in fact, win the lottery, let me pass along a few things that you might usefully worry about. These are things more likely to happen to you than winning Mega Millions. You are more likely to be crushed to death by a vending machine than win Mega Millions. You are more likely to become president or have identical quadruplets. You are more likely to become a movie star or be struck by lightning. Any one of these wildly unlikely events is a near certainty compared to the odds of winning Mega Millions. But what if you did win Mega Millions? What if someone handed you a check of, pick a number, $300 million after taxes? What would you do with it? If that should happen, by the way, allow me to convey my expectations concerning all souls. Under circumstances of ordinary income, I think the biblical standard of a tithe, a contribution of 10%, is a reasonable goal. It's seldom achieved, I might add, but it's a reasonable goal. Under circumstances of extraordinary income, however, with a windfall that's neither earned nor merited, I think a double tithe makes more sense. We can negotiate the details when the time comes, of course, but I wanted you to know my expectations in advance. So the question is what you'll do with the rest of your money. Even if you succumb to the temptation to buy a bunch of extremely expensive things that need to be insured and fueled and mowed and painted and stored and updated and repaired and replaced, you'll still be faced with the question of what to do with the rest. In other words, you'll eventually be faced with the question of whether you merely want to do well for yourself or whether you actually want to do some good for the world. If you win the lottery, what good will you want to do? What difference will you want to make? Frederick Buechner, who has penned some of our best common meditations, says that you find your calling where your deep passion meets the world's deep need. What's your calling? Whatever your calling might be, I know one thing. It's not lottery dependent. Whatever difference you can decisively make with $300 million, you can incrementally make with 300 or 3,000 or 30,000. Unless you are seriously worried about being crushed by a vending machine, then you shouldn't worry about winning the lottery. Instead, you should take your money and get seriously busy making a difference. As it turns out, the same principle holds true when it comes to time, except conversely. The telling question isn't what you would do if you had all the time in the world. It's what you would do if you didn't. In a recent common meditation, the late renowned psychiatrist Elizabeth Schussler Kubler-Ross says, It's only when we truly know and understand that we have a limited time on earth and that we have no way of knowing when our time is up, that we will begin to live each day to the fullest as if it was the only one we had. If time is short, you focus on the essentials. This is the one overriding thing you need to know about Jesus of Nazareth. He believed time was short, not just his time, but everybody's time. He thought the world was about to end. Thus, he focused on the essentials. Today is the beginning of what is known in the Christian calendar as Holy Week. The 7 days from Palm Sunday, which is today, to Easter, which comes next Sunday. During this week, Christians around the world commemorate the final days in the life of Jesus of Nazareth. His so-called triumphal entry into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, Passover with his disciples on Thursday evening, an event now known to Christians as the Last Supper, his trial and crucifixion by Roman soldiers on Friday, his burial on Saturday, and his resurrection on Easter Sunday. As the Palm Sunday story is told in the New Testament, Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. The people of Palestine gathered along the streets, waving palm branches to welcome this itinerant Jewish prophet as their conquering king, or so they hoped. Weary from years of oppressive rule by the Romans, the Jewish people hoped Jesus could help oust Pontius Pilate and his minions, who served as Caesar's henchmen in Palestine. Rumor had it that Jesus could work miracles. Some said they had seen him walk on water and raise people from the dead. Perhaps he could help them throw off the shackles of Rome. 5 days later, Jesus was dead. 2,000 years later, many people measure the centuries themselves from the year of Jesus' birth. And nearly a third of the world's population claims to be his followers. Since Palm Sunday represents something of a high watermark in Jesus' earthly ministry, today is a good time to ask what he thought was essential. These days, this question has become something of a parlor game, often under the rubric of the question, what would Jesus do? By some accounts, Jesus would be a Prius-driving, Wall Street-occupying, sustainably grown food-eating prophet of the counterculture. Not only that, one of my Facebook friends posted a photo this week of Jesus wearing a hoodie, just like Trayvon Martin, who was gunned down by a neighborhood watch vigilante in Florida 4 weeks ago. By other accounts, of course, Jesus would deny contraception to women and refuse marriage to gays. He'd keep taxes low, defense spending high, and immigrants in limbo. And according to Pat Robertson, Jesus would definitely bomb Iran. Given these disparities, it would seem that Jesus has served less as Messiah than as marionette, less Redeemer than Rorschach test. Jesus once asked his disciples, "Who do you think I am?" Even then, Jesus seemed to sense that he had become a talisman, a mascot for someone else's game. So who was Jesus really? The definitive answer to this question can be found in the title of Bart Ehrman's book on the topic, Jesus, Apocalyptic Prophet of the New Millennium. For the record, Bart and I attended Princeton Seminary together, He went on to become the chair of religious studies at Chapel Hill and perhaps the leading New Testament scholar of this generation. He spoke at All Souls, as you may recall, following the publication of his book on the Da Vinci Code. As to Jesus, Barth says that Jesus believed things had gotten so bad that God would soon come to save the righteous and judge the wicked. Jesus thought this apocalypse would come within the lifetime of his followers. Barth concludes, as a first-century Jew, Jesus lived when many Jews expected God to intervene once and for all for his people, to overthrow the forces of evil that had gained ascendancy in the world and bring the kingdom of God to earth. Then there would be no more war, poverty, disease, calamity, sin, hatred, or death. The kingdom would arrive in power, and all that was opposed to it would be destroyed and removed. Jesus' message was terse and urgent. Time is short, so get ready. Barth acknowledges that many people today think of Jesus as a great moral teacher, whose ethical teachings can help us create a just and peaceful world. Barth says, on one level, I think that's probably right. But it's also important to realize that Jesus himself did not see it that way. He did not propound his ethical views to show us how to create a just society and make the world a happier place for the long haul. For him, there wasn't going to be a long haul.